Long before kingdoms were remembered, before history found its voice, hidden deep within the mist-covered mountains stood a forgotten village called Eldor Vale. The villagers believed one strange legend. In the heart of the village hung an ancient silver bell. It was unlike any ordinary bell. No one was allowed to touch it. No one was allowed to ring it. The elders always repeated the same warning. The day this bell rings, one soul will lose everything, but the entire village will find its future. For more than 200 years, the bell never made a single sound. Children grew into old men, kings rose and disappeared, yet the bell remained silent. Everyone feared it. Everyone except one young man. His name was Vaelor Ashwyn, only 24 years old, a quiet apprentice woodworker. Honest, hardworking, curious. Unlike everyone else, Vaelor didn't fear the bell. He feared living an entire life without ever discovering the truth. Every evening after work, he climbed the old stone steps leading toward the abandoned bell tower. He would sit quietly beneath the ancient oak tree, watching the silent bell sway gently with the mountain wind. Sometimes, he wondered if fear itself had become the village's greatest prison. One cold autumn evening, an old traveler arrived. His cloak was covered in dust. His walking staff was carved with symbols no one recognized. His silver eyes stopped not on the marketplace, not on the houses, but directly on the silent bell. For the first time in decades, someone smiled after seeing it. The old traveler whispered only one sentence. "The bell isn't waiting for courage, it's waiting for someone willing to pay its price." Vaelor heard every word, and from that very moment, his ordinary life would never be ordinary again. The old traveler stayed in Eldor Vale that night. No one knew where he had come from. No one dared to ask. The village innkeeper offered him a room, but the old man politely refused. Instead, he chose to sleep beneath the ancient oak tree, directly beside the silent bell. By sunrise, the entire village was whispering, "Has he lost his mind? Doesn't he know the legend? No one stays near the bell after dark." The elders watched from a distance. Their faces carried not anger, but fear. Only Vaelor walked toward him. The old traveler was already awake. He sat quietly, pouring hot tea into 2 small wooden cups. Without looking up, he smiled. "I was wondering when you would come." Vaelor frowned. "You were expecting me?" The old man handed him one of the cups. "Curiosity always finds those who are willing to listen." For several moments, neither of them spoke. The mountain breeze carried only the sound of rustling leaves. Finally, Vaelor asked the question that had filled his mind all night. "Why did you say the bell has a price?" The old man looked toward the tower. His eyes became distant, almost as if he were remembering someone. "Because every gift worth receiving asks for something in return." Vaelor remained silent. The old traveler continued. "Most people believe the bell brings disaster. They are wrong. The bell doesn't create loss, it reveals what people refuse to let go of." Those words settled heavily in Vaelor's heart. He had never heard anyone speak of the legend that way. The old man reached into his weathered satchel. From inside, he removed a tiny wooden bell. Simple, hand-carved. Its surface was worn smooth with time. He placed it gently into Vaelor's hand. "Keep this with you. When the time comes, you'll understand why." Vaelor looked confused. "Who are you?" The old man smiled, but instead of answering, he stood up. He looked once more at the silent silver bell hanging high inside the tower. Then he quietly walked away into the morning mist. Within seconds, he disappeared, almost as if the mountains themselves had swallowed him. Vaelor looked down at the small wooden bell resting in his hand. Something about it felt strangely familiar, not magical, not mysterious, just important. He slipped it carefully into his pocket. At that very moment, a loud voice echoed across the village square. The village chief had arrived. His expression was grave. He carried troubling news. The river that had supplied Eldor Vale for generations was beginning to dry up. Without water, the village would not survive the coming winter. And for the first time in centuries, the frightened eyes of the villagers slowly turned toward the silent bell. The announcement spread through Eldor Vale like wildfire. The river, the very river that had given life to the village for generations, was dying. Children who once laughed beside its banks now stood silently, staring at the shallow water. The village chief, Eldor Vale, gathered everyone in the square. His voice was calm, but the worry in his eyes could not be hidden. "If the river continues to dry, our crops will fail before winter arrives." A heavy silence followed. Everyone searched for an answer, but no one had one. Then, an elderly woman slowly stood. Her trembling voice broke the silence. "Perhaps it's time." The crowd immediately understood what she meant. The bell. Fear spread across every face. One villager shook his head. "No. For 200 years, no one has touched it." Another whispered, "Every family that tried disappeared from this village." Soon, stories began filling the square. Stories of failure, stories of fear, stories no one had ever questioned. Vaelor listened quietly. Something didn't feel right. He had grown up hearing these stories, yet no one had ever said they had actually seen them happen. Every tale began with, "Someone told me," "My grandfather said," "The elders believed." Not a single witness, only fear passed from one generation to the next. That evening, Vaelor climbed the hill once again. The silver bell swayed gently in the mountain wind. The little wooden bell inside his pocket felt strangely warm. He took it out. As moonlight touched its smooth surface, he noticed something he had never seen before. Tiny words, carefully carved around its edge. He leaned closer. It read, "Fear protects comfort. Wisdom protects truth." Vaelor's heartbeat quickened. At that very moment, footsteps echoed behind him. It was the village chief, Eldor Vale. He stood beside Vaelor, without saying a word. For several minutes, both men simply watched the silent bell. Finally, the chief spoke. "Do you know why no one climbs here anymore?" Vaelor shook his head. The chief smiled sadly. "Because it's easier to fear an old story than to question it." Vaelor looked at him. "Do you believe the curse?" The chief remained silent. Then he quietly answered, "I believe people fear losing what little they have. Sometimes that fear becomes the real curse." Those words stayed with Vaelor. As they walked back toward the village, neither of them noticed a cloaked figure watching from the forest, hidden among the trees. The mysterious traveler had returned, and for the first time, he smiled. because the first lesson had finally begun. The following morning, the village awoke to an unsettling sight. A group of strangers had arrived. Their horses were larger than any the villagers had ever seen. Their clothes were expensive. Their swords gleamed beneath the morning sun. Leading them was a wealthy merchant named Cassian Drell. Unlike the villagers, Cassian wasn't interested in Eldor Vale. He wasn't interested in its people. He had come for only one thing: the silent bell. As he stood beneath the ancient tower, he smiled confidently. So this is the famous bell that everyone fears? The villagers stepped back. The chief approached calmly. This bell doesn't belong to anyone. Cassian laughed. Everything belongs to someone, especially if they're willing to pay enough. He opened a heavy wooden chest. Inside, gold coins sparkled beneath the sunlight. More money than the village had seen in generations. The crowd fell silent. Cassian looked around. Sell me the bell. Your village will never know hunger again. Some villagers exchanged nervous glances. Children needed food. Farmers needed water. Families were desperate. For the first time, the impossible offer began to sound reasonable. One farmer whispered, "Maybe we should accept." Another nodded slowly. "It's only a bell." But Vaelor stepped forward. His voice remained calm. "If it's only a bell, why have you traveled across 3 kingdoms to buy it?" Cassian's smile faded. For a brief second, his confidence disappeared. Then he replied, "Because legends sell for a fortune." Vaelor looked directly into his eyes. Something felt wrong. Cassian wasn't chasing a legend. He was chasing something else, something far more valuable. That evening, Vaelor climbed the tower alone. The wind was stronger than usual. The old silver bell moved gently, without making a sound. He removed the small wooden bell from his pocket once again. As his fingers brushed its surface, a hidden compartment quietly opened. Inside, folded tightly between 2 pieces of wood, was an ancient piece of parchment. His hands trembled. The paper was old, older than the village itself. Across the top, only 6 words were written. The bell was never the treasure. Vaelor stared in disbelief. He carefully unfolded the rest of the parchment. Before he could finish reading, a shadow appeared behind him. Someone else had followed him into the tower. Vaelor slowly turned around. Standing behind him was not Cassian, nor the village chief. It was the mysterious old traveler. His silver eyes reflected the moonlight. He looked at the ancient parchment in Vaelor's trembling hands and smiled. "You found it." Vaelor took a careful step back. "Who are you?" The old traveler remained silent for a moment. Then he answered softly, "My name no longer matters. I am only the last keeper." The wind howled through the broken windows of the tower. Vaelor frowned. "Keeper of what?" The old man slowly walked toward the silent bell. He gently placed his weathered hand against the cold silver metal. Not the bell, the truth. For the first time, Vaelor looked closely at the bell. It wasn't decorated with symbols of fear, it was covered with symbols of hope. Olive branches, flowing rivers, rising suns. There was nothing dark about it, only peace. The keeper continued. 200 years ago, this valley suffered a terrible drought, just like today. People became desperate. Some wanted to protect one another, others wanted power. Vaelor listened without blinking. One man spread a lie. He told everyone the bell carried a curse. People believed him, not because it was true, but because fear is easier to believe than hope. Vaelor's heart raced. Everything the village believed had started with a lie. The keeper unfolded the ancient parchment completely. It wasn't a map. It wasn't a spell. It was a letter written by the founder of Eldor Vale. The first line read, "If you are reading this, fear has survived longer than truth." Vaelor felt chills. The keeper pointed toward the old stone floor beneath the bell. There, almost hidden beneath centuries of dust, was a carved circle, perfectly shaped. The bell was never meant to warn people, it was meant to gather them. Vaelor looked confused. The keeper smiled. The sound of the bell reveals something hidden beneath this tower. At that exact moment, heavy footsteps echoed from the staircase. This time, it wasn't the keeper. It was Cassian Drell. Behind him stood 4 armed guards. Cassian slowly clapped his hands. A cold smile spread across his face. "Wonderful. You saved me years of searching." He looked directly at Vaelor, then at the ancient parchment. "Hand it over." Vaelor stood still. Cassian drew his sword. The tower fell silent. Outside, dark storm clouds rolled across the mountains. And for the very first time in over 2 centuries, the ancient silver bell began to move on its own, without anyone touching it. The ancient tower trembled. The silver bell swayed slowly, yet no hand had touched it. The deep wind echoed through Eldor Vale. Every villager stopped what they were doing. For the first time in generations, the silent bell was moving. Inside the tower, Cassian Drell tightened his grip on his sword. His guards slowly surrounded Vaelor. The old keeper remained perfectly calm, almost as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. Cassian's voice echoed through the tower. "Enough stories. Give me the parchment." Vaelor looked down at the fragile letter. It wasn't treasure, it wasn't wealth, it was truth. And somehow, Cassian feared that truth more than anything else. The keeper stepped forward. "You already know what's beneath this tower." Cassian smiled. A cold, calculated smile. "Of course I do. My grandfather spent his entire life searching for it." Vaelor looked at him in surprise. Cassian continued. "He wasn't the founder. He was the man who created the curse." Silence filled the room. The keeper closed his eyes. He had hoped that part of history would never return. Cassian laughed. "Fear made people abandon this tower, and while they looked away, my family waited." He pointed his sword toward the stone floor. "Move." Reluctantly, Vaelor stepped aside. Cassian ordered his guards to push the massive stone circle beneath the bell. With great effort, the stone slowly shifted. A cloud of ancient dust rose into the air. Below it, a narrow staircase appeared, leading deep beneath the mountain. The guards lit their lanterns. One by one, they descended. Vaelor, the keeper, and Cassian followed. The underground chamber was unlike anything Vaelor had imagined. There was no treasure, no gold, no jewels. Only hundreds of stone tablets, ancient books, maps, records. Generations of knowledge carefully preserved. Engineering drawings, water systems, agricultural techniques, medical remedies, wisdom collected over centuries. The keeper smiled gently. This was always the real treasure. Vaelor stood speechless. The founder of Eldor Vale had hidden knowledge, not riches. Knowledge that could save countless lives. Cassian's face darkened. He kicked one of the stone tablets across the floor. Books? This is what everyone protected? The keeper nodded. Gold feeds one generation. Wisdom feeds every generation. Cassian's anger exploded. Wisdom doesn't make men powerful. The keeper looked directly into his eyes. No, it makes them free. For a brief second, no one spoke. Then, Cassian gave a single command. Burn everything. His guards immediately raised their torches. Vaelor's heart stopped. Centuries of wisdom were about to disappear forever. The chamber fell into complete silence. Only the flickering flames of the guards' torches illuminated the ancient walls. Cassian pointed his sword toward the shelves. His voice was cold. Burn every book. Leave nothing behind. The guards stepped forward. One torch, then another, moved closer to the centuries-old manuscripts. Vaelor's heart pounded. He looked toward the keeper. The old man remained calm, almost too calm. He whispered quietly, "Remember what the wooden bell taught you." Vaelor reached into his pocket, his fingers wrapped around the small wooden bell. Again, he read the words carved on it. Fear protects comfort. Wisdom protects truth. At that moment, he understood. This was never about saving books. It was about saving what they represented. Without hesitation, Vaelor stepped between the guards and the library. He spread his arms. If you burn this knowledge, you must burn me first. The guards hesitated. None of them moved. Cassian laughed. You would die for old paper? Vaelor looked directly into his eyes. His voice remained steady. Not for paper, for every child who deserves a future. The chamber became silent again. Even the guards lowered their eyes. The keeper smiled softly. For the first time, hope had become stronger than fear. Cassian's face twisted with anger. He grabbed a burning torch himself. Then watch your future disappear. He threw it toward the shelves. Before the torch could land, a young guard suddenly caught it. Everyone froze. Cassian stared in disbelief. What are you doing? The guard lowered the torch. His voice trembled. My father taught me to read using books just like these. Another guard stepped forward, then another. One by one, every guard lowered their weapons. Cassian realized he was standing alone. For years, he had controlled people through fear, but courage had spread faster. The keeper quietly walked toward the great silver bell hanging above the chamber. He looked at Vaelor. The bell was never waiting for a hero. It was waiting for someone brave enough to inspire others. The old man handed Vaelor the ancient bell rope. Vaelor looked around. The villagers, the guards, the keeper. Everyone was watching him. His hands trembled, not because he was afraid, but because he finally understood the true price. If he rang the bell, the old lies would end forever. There would be no returning to the past. He closed his eyes, took one deep breath, and pulled the rope. For the first time in more than 200 years, the silent bell rang. Its deep sound echoed across every mountain, every forest, every home in Elder Vale. No disaster came. No curse appeared. Only silence, followed by tears. The villagers looked at one another, realizing they had spent generations fearing something that had never wanted to harm them. The sound of the ancient bell rolled across the mountains, not like a warning, but like a promise. The villagers stood frozen. Children looked toward their parents. Parents looked toward the tower. Everyone had expected fear. Instead, they felt peace. For the first time in generations, the silence inside their hearts disappeared. Cassian Drell slowly dropped his sword. The sound of cold steel striking the stone floor echoed through the chamber. He looked around. Every guard had stepped away from him. Every villager now stood behind Vaelor. Power, built on fear, had vanished in a single moment. Cassian laughed quietly, not with confidence, but with regret. My grandfather spent his entire life protecting a lie, and I almost did the same. The keeper walked toward him. His eyes held no anger, only compassion. He placed one hand on Cassian's shoulder. The greatest prison isn't made of stone. It's made from the lies we refuse to question. Cassian lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he wasn't thinking about wealth or victory. He was thinking about all the years he had wasted chasing something that never existed. The keeper turned toward Vaelor. He smiled, then slowly removed the small wooden bell from Vaelor's pocket. He placed it beside the great silver bell. Every keeper leaves behind a guide for the next one. Vaelor looked confused. The next keeper? The old man nodded. Knowledge doesn't protect itself. Someone must protect it by sharing it. Those words changed everything. Weeks passed. Instead of hiding the underground library, the villagers opened it to everyone. Farmers learned better ways to grow crops. Builders strengthened homes against storms. Healers discovered forgotten remedies. Teachers began educating every child free of charge. The dried river, once thought to be a curse, was restored using the ancient engineering plans hidden beneath the tower. The valley became greener than anyone could remember. Travelers began arriving from distant kingdoms, not searching for treasure, but searching for wisdom. Years later, Eldor Vale became known as the village that chose truth over fear. As for Cassian, he never returned to his old life. Instead, he stayed, not as a merchant, but as a student, because he finally understood knowledge has value only when it changes the person who receives it. Many years later, an old Vaelor climbed the familiar stone steps one final time. The silver bell still hung proudly above the village, but now children laughed beneath it. No one feared it anymore. A little boy looked up at Vaelor and asked, "Grandfather, why doesn't anyone fear the bell today?" Vaelor smiled gently. He looked toward the endless mountains, then answered, "Because the bell never changed, the people did." The boy thought for a moment, then smiled. Together, they rang the bell. Its peaceful sound echoed across the valley once again, not as a warning, but as a reminder that truth will always outlive fear. Fear often survives, not because it is powerful, but because no one is willing to question it. The greatest courage is not fighting others, it is challenging the beliefs that keep us from growing. Wisdom is never meant to be hidden, it is meant to be shared, because one person who chooses truth can change the future of an entire generation. Some people inherit gold, some inherit land, But the greatest inheritance is the courage to seek the truth. Thank you for watching Aurevian Wisdom, where every story leaves a lesson.